Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome to our Wednesday night live stream. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, young prodigy CJ Vogel, and of course, happy National Signing Day to everybody out there. We had a marathon of coverage, if you will, over the period of National Signing Day. 8 hours of it. CJ Vogel, an integral part of that. So another live stream. We just kind of wrap everything up. All right, we're not going to go too long tonight, but we want to make sure we wrap everything up for those who didn't get a chance to come in and out of the live stream that we had. I don't know how you didn't. It was 8 hours of it. But in case you didn't get it and you missed that, we'll try to wrap everything up for you here tonight. Of course, you know how it works. You guys drive the show. Whatever questions, comments you have, you throw them out there. We'll answer as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Even though it is National Signing Day, Texas got a big game coming up this week. So we'll also use this time to talk a little Georgia. Texas had a chance to avenge their only loss on the season to the Georgia Bulldogs. So we'll get into that a little bit and talk about that matchup as well. But like I said, a lot of it will be devoted to kind of wrapping up National Signing Day for the Longhorns, who are still, CJ, I haven't looked at it. I took a break from it. I'm sure you did too, because you were like immersed in it for 8 hours today. Are they still number one? Longhorns still number one recruiting class right now?
Yes, still number one. No real movement. It's kind of, there's been movement on this signing day amongst the top classes, but not a whole lot of flips, not a whole lot of big uncommitted decisions. Obviously, there were a few, but in comparison to a few other classes that we've seen in the past, not as busy. Texas still sitting number one. Of course, they're right there with Georgia, who are going to be, battling it out for Justus Terry until Friday when that decision is expected to come.
Yeah. Jerry early was talking about that one. That's a big one. Could determine whether there is someone that can leapfrog Texas with that number one spot based on that Justus Terry announcement coming up later on this week. All right, so of course we'll talk a lot about the recruiting class. We'll get your thoughts on it, how you guys feel about it. We'll talk a lot about Texas, Georgia as well. We'll get into that matchup too, because I want to get CJ's thoughts about how Carson Beck is playing lately. I think it's a big type of conversation we haven't talked enough about. Last time Texas played him, he was playing the worst football of his career. Now he's actually playing some of the best football of the season. I don't think people are talking enough about that. We'll get into that coming up a little bit. But first, I'm going to ask you this about this recruiting class, CJ. Now that obviously most of it is done, like you said, still could be a surprise or two coming up, but most of it is done. I always say there has to be a theme of a recruiting class. Like there's something that usually develops that ends up being a theme of it. Whether that be just a position group that is an elite position group in that class. Sometimes it's quarterback, sometimes it's offensive line. It was for Texas a few years ago. Sometimes it is kind of basically how the class was put together, how it came together ends up being sometimes the story and the narrative of it, because hey, it came to you at the last minute. It was one of those classes. A lot of guys who flipped decommitments in the class. What is the theme of the 2025 class? Sometimes it's about something that the program needed, right? The program is shifting in one direction or another. Maybe there is some type of schematic I would say, adjustment or modification happening within the program, and you can see that reflected in the recruiting class. What's the theme of it for you?
I think the big theme with Texas's first full year in the SEC, you're seeing them dip into Georgia and Florida heavier than they ever have.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
There's 6 guys right now that signed out of either state, and that's Nick Brooks, Jamie French. You look at Myron Charles and Grayson Littleton, Amari Winston, Zaylis Hicks. That's the last one I was looking at the top of my head, but that's really impressive. And of course, these are all guys that Texas has been battling with in their own state for, OU, A&M, LSU, Arkansas, whoever else, with the Alabamas, Ohio States, Georgia's all kind of picking a piece as well. Well, now Texas is being proactive and saying, you know what, we're going to bring the fight to you. In Georgia, you're not going to have Matthew, thanks for pulling up that graphic. Tremendous graphic, by the way. Texas is saying basically, yeah, y'all can come pick in with Texas, but that doesn't mean you're going to have just your surrounding area as well and come get ours. No, Texas is being proactive, going out to Georgia, going out to Florida, working up to the DMV area a little bit. We're seeing them, very active again out in California, and you'll see that again in the 26 class. But I thought that was one of the big themes as well. And then the other theme is depth. I mean, just quite frankly, look at every single position. You got one quarterback, but 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 2 tight ends, 4 offensive linemen, and an athlete that could be a running back, a receiver, a tight end. On the flip side, you got two defensive linemen, maybe 3, 2 edge rushers, 2 linebackers, 3 cornerbacks, 2 safeties. It's pretty good. You're addressing needs and continuing to have a lot of good quality depth at every single position on the field. And I tell you, it's that good talent.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's a good point too. I love what you brought up about the national recruiting now. It feels like that's not an outlier. It feels like that's just going forward. That's going to be the MO of Sark. That's why he wants the coaches with different ties all over the country, different fertile recruiting pockets all over the country. That's why this game coming up is so big. It's big because, Georgia and Atlanta, we talk about it all the time, right? Among the most fertile metro areas in the country for producing NFL talent. Georgia's Atlanta's at the top of the list. That's a lot of what, has built Georgia into this being this dynasty, and a lot of what has fueled this dynastic run. And Texas is trying to, get a little piece of it, their own share of it. And I think a big part of that will be beating Georgia in Atlanta. And then you can go into those households in Atlanta and go, yeah, I know that, Georgia has been the big dog in college football for a while, but we already beat them in their place. We're ascending. All right. It's the Longhorns time. So their recruiting pitch in SEC country, especially there in Atlanta, could be a lot more attractive if the Longhorns pull off that win.
Absolutely. And especially when you start looking into what's next, right? Texas isn't just going to disappear from Georgia, from Alabama, from Atlanta, from Florida. That whole area is just ripe with talent, and it's ripe with talent every single year. So, Rod, to your point, going to Atlanta and hoisting an SEC championship in year 1, that's a pretty good blueprint. Of course, we talked about Tyler Atkinson from Grayson, Bryce Perry Wright. Florida has a number of big-time wide receivers that Texas is already involved with right now. Dylan Berriman out of Louisiana. Look, they're not going to go away anytime soon. And right now, with the way that they're envisioning the outlook and build of their future teams, a lot of them has to come with the big boys in the trenches from SEC country, and that involves Georgia and Florida.
All right, good stuff there, CJ. Let's hit a super chat, and then we'll hit our sponsor and get back to some of the questions. Aloha Traveler, very kind of you. I hope you had a great holiday, and also thank you very much. Very kind of you. Say you both, along with Bobby and Jerry, have made being a Longhorn fan more enjoyable this last year. Really appreciate you guys for the quality of your work. What positions are you guys seeing for potential portal targets, hoping for a speedy wide receiver and DTs? Thank you very much, Aloha Traveler. I'll just say this. When, the guys approached me, Bobby and Jerry, about On Texas and working with this channel, the vision was that there's enough excitement, there's enough support, there's enough from Longhorn fans, enough enthusiasm that basically there should be a year-round channel for Texas football, and that there would be enough overall, like I said, support and enthusiasm for it, that it wouldn't wane, from week to week. During the season, of course, we get more and more content, more traffic, but Longhorn fans are so hungry, all right, for content about Texas football and a community that they want to be involved with and be a part of. That is kind of built around that Longhorn pride and that love for the brand, and that people would respond positively. And it has been overwhelming.
Absolutely.
Exceeded all of our expectations about that as the vision. CJ was part of it, by the way. I remember when they like, hey, CJ Vogel's a guy we thinking about, and I was like, oh man, dude, if you can get that guy, that's a home run. How about talent acquisition? That's a first round pick. And also that has also exceeded expectations. So almost everything that we envisioned for this channel and for this community, it's exceeded expectations because of you guys. And thank you, Aloha Traveler. You're a big part of that too. So we appreciate that. You guys have been awesome, and we're gonna keep the party going. The Longhorns, hey, it's something about good luck. We've kind of, and it's good luck sometimes, we've ascended at the same time. Texas football is getting good at the right time, and they decided to launch on Texas football around the same time. I think that's more than coincidence, man. That's serendipitous. So hopefully we just all continue to grow together as the Longhorns, because we believe they're on the cusp, on the precipice of one of those runs again. What that Mac Brown, what I was a part of, actually I was a player in 99, and then 2001 we hit it. And we started winning 11 games consistently every year. I think we're on the cusp of that again from what we saw, in the last 2 years, CJ. And now I'm happy to be a part of it on the other side, as it being a part of the fans and a part of, being able to educate the fans and bring them the best content, Longhorn-related football content that we can bring.
Yeah, this has been a blast, and days like this make it all the worthwhile. Of course, Rod, I don't know what number we got to earlier during the 8-hour marathon stream, but man, it was a big one, and it just speaks again to the community that's been built here, but also how enjoyable it is to hop on here and talk with you guys all the time about Texas football, Texas baseball, Texas basketball, and everything in between. Rod, it's been a blast, and hey, they're still playing ball. We still got some time to go this year.
I'm right. Yeah, I'm sorry I said Texas football, but you're right. CJ knows a lot about Texas baseball, a ton. So does Blake. Blake does a great job covering that. Jerry, Jerry talks Texas basketball as much as anybody. So we do have a very diversified group, kind of knowledge base of Texas sports, period. So proud to be a part of it. Proud that you guys are a part of it too. All right, the second part of that question, though, for Aloha Truck, let's get right to it. Second part of the comment, I should say. The portal targets, potential portal targets. Maybe positions, I guess, more about it, because targets are tough. Guys are just starting to flood into the portal. But what positions would you be looking at, and CJ, that Texas could potentially be looking at in the portal?
Yeah, I mean, wide receiver, defensive tackle, those are the big ones. I think defensive tackle, you have to take at least one, maybe two. You just have a lot of departures. You're at 4 minimum. Who knows what happens with any other transfers coming out? Of course, I believe you'll see 10 to 12 transfers coming out after the SEC championship game. Wide receiver, I think you always take one. And I say that because there's always going to be an elite level wide receiver at, let's just hypothetically say, an Iowa State, right? There's always going to be an elite level guy, and it's not necessarily Iowa State, but you get what I'm saying. A kid looking at the D1, P4 spot, looking to make a jump into a contender, there's always going to be a guy. And Texas has benefited with a Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, and A.D. Mitchell. Obviously, they took a chance on Isaiah Nayor, who jumped up after having an 1,100-yard season at Wyoming, and injuries cut that short. But I think you always take one because, look, those guys – they're not rare, Rod, but that's as instant impact as you could find outside of a quarterback in my eyes. And, with the way that this offense is looking, of course, you can never have enough speed, and Texas is reaping the benefits of that as at the moment. So I think you take one there. And we talked about it a little bit. I don't know if Texas will take a cornerback because I think they have enough bodies there, but they don't have a lot of experience next year. Of course, you're looking at Manny Muhammad being your cornerback one. I would assume Kobe Black being the guy opposite of him, but also Warren Roberson, Javion Cole. The only others right now that have true snaps on the field, of course, you'll have Cade Phillips coming in. You'll have Grayson Littleton, Caleb Chester coming in. How do they battle out with a Wardell Mack and a Santana Wilson? Again, a lot of bodies there, not a lot of production or experience. That'll be interesting.
I love what you said about wide receivers, CJ. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think with the way that college football is, I've always said wide receiver is the deepest position in football at any level. When you talk about, when you look at a lot of high school football, you get a chance to go out there and get your eyes on it. Wide receivers seem to be deep everywhere. There are decent wide receivers everywhere. Look how many wide receivers now. Even we talked to Jamie French today. We talked to Day Day, right?
Yeah.
And both of those guys, right? And I know you're close to Day Day. You asked them like, hey, there's another wide receiver coming up right behind you, might be just as good. And they're like, yeah, there's another one. Both of those guys. I think wide receivers is deep. And you just brought it up about Texas when they have acquired wide receivers via the transfer portal. Don't it always seem like there's a really good crop of wide receivers via the transfer portal? Because it's the deepest in football at any level. Go look at the NFL draft every year. 6, 7 wide receivers being drafted in the first round every year. That's just the way it goes. And to your point also about it maybe being the most immediately impactful position other than quarterback. And I think you're right. The NFL knows that too. If you go look at, if you based on importance of position, premium positions, based on their average annual salary and average annual value and what they're making, wide receiver is the second most important position in football behind quarterback. There are more wide receivers making $30+ million a year than any other position other than quarterback.
Yeah.
So to your I was talking to John Simon today, James's dad, and even he said, man, I just think college has got to start like Sark is doing. As he said, I think and it was important to him and their recruitment, saying that they have an NFL model, that colleges to adopt a pro model, general manager, separation of church and state, if you will, in terms of the branch that negotiates the contracts and the NIL dues, separate from the coaches who are, obviously working with the players and their fundamentals and their technique and the strategy and the scheme on the field. Straight up separation from it. And Texas has that. He said a few schools that have that, and Texas is one of them. And he said it matters to him, but it just got me thinking about how you're talking about wide receiver. I think you're right, man. I think that in terms of the overall view of it, I think you should take one every year.
I agree. And Rod, to your point, look at some of the names that have just entered the portal, right? There's some familiar names that Texas has played this year, right? Dane Key at Kentucky was their leading wide receiver,
right.
1,800 yards this year. 1,800 yards in his career, 14 touchdowns. That's pretty good production. Kobe Prentice out of Alabama, top 80 kid coming out of high school not too long ago. Isaiah Satania out of Arkansas, one of the fastest kids in all the country. There's plenty of wide receivers. My personal favorite is KZ Concepcion out of NC State. I think that kid is going to be a top dollar getter out of the portal as well. But that's all within the first 3 days of true announcements, and that's 4 guys at Alabama, NC State, Arkansas, Kentucky, SEC level guys. And so there's going to be so many more. Of course, Texas has had a casualty at the wide receiver spot. I don't know if they'll have another, but I'm saying it's a revolving door because of how many wide receivers there are and how many options there will be for Texas to go out and get.
Yep, and you're going to be on both sides of it because you're going to lose one or two. You know that just because in Texas is one of those schools where actually everybody is actually getting targets. They got 6 guys in that wide receiver room who are actually getting, at least they were 6 guys who were getting targets. And yet there's still not enough balls to go around. So on the other end, you're going to lose some guys, but I agree. It's a great strategy. Take one every year. All right, we'll get back to the super chats and the questions, guys. I promise you that. But let me thank Andy Ludicky first because he's one of our partners, and we are proud to talk about him as a partner of On Texas Football. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like me that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. Call him today. You see the number right there, 404-973-9901. If you're stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO, no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general, call Andy today. He will take you through a process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. We understand franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, give Andy a call today, 404-973-9901, or reach out to him via email at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. You can take control of your financial destiny. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. We really appreciate it. All right, some more super chats here. You guys know how it works. Super chats, jump to the front of the line, interrupt the show at any time. How about this one from Justin? Justin, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Rod and CJ, who are 3 players from this class y'all most excited to see hit the field and who can have the biggest impact? Ooh. This is good. This is tough, actually. This is tough. I ain't gonna lie. This is actually hard. I'm gonna let CJ hit it first because CJ obviously knows more recruiting than me, so I'm just kind of a rookie to it. But CJ, give me your thoughts in terms of who you're most excited about personally.
Yeah, I think I have to start with Jonah Williams. I think I have to start there. Of course, that was just the splashiest of splash wins for Texas over Oklahoma, who he was crystal balled to, Texas A&M, who he was crystal balled to, LSU, who he was crystal. That was as big a win Texas had the entire cycle. I cannot wait to see what he develops into. Of course, you might have to wait a little bit. Of course, with his plans to play baseball in the spring, he won't be fully active for fall camp yet, but I think he's going to be the number 1 guy for me. I'm a really big fan of Lance Jackson. I've mentioned that time and time again. I think that's a guy that 5-star kid off the edge with his size, his length, his athleticism. The sky's the limit. He might be in the contention for being, in the Ethan Burke, Barron Sorrell mix with some Alfred Collins in him, all in one with some superb athleticism. I love him.
I like that.
And then, look, I was going to go Elijah Barnes, and I think I still am, but who knows what Nick Townsend ends up doing. I know we have him pegged right now as a tight end. That's what he was recruited as. But, look, I thought it was interesting. Jerry brought up earlier, maybe if Texas doesn't go the route of adding another linebacker this class, you could see him playing outside backer, defensive end, a linebacker spot, or just stick at tight end. And either way, I think he's a kid that is absolutely tremendous. He's physical. He's quick. He's a jumbo athlete at about 6'4", 240 pounds, runs 10.9. Heck of a football player. I can't wait to see how those four – I gave you an extra one there. So I like all four of those guys.
No, it is. It's hard to pick three. That's why I said it's a really good question because I got like 5 or 6. I'm with you. I could throw out there. Okay, so
I didn't even mention the 5-star corner, Rod. I left that one for you.
Exactly. I got a personal connection with Cade Phillips, so it'd be hard for me not to throw out Cade Phillips out there just from seeing what the young man has become and really maximizing that talent. I love him. I think he can play, safety for you, play corner. Really fits the versatility that Texas is emphasizing in the secondary. They've been bragging about cross-training guys, almost everybody. That last class that they had, Sark mentioned position flex and 3 position players. They want guys that can move around in that secondary. I think that's a theme. And Cade Phillips fits that. They got him as a cornerback. I remember some people were projecting him as a safety. I think ultimately he could end up at the NFL as a safety, but a safety that can cover like a corner. Those guys are valuable. So it's personally, but then Jonah Williams, yeah, man, I don't know if I've watched better film, high school film on a safety. Now, I've been doing it, as much as CJ and as long as Jerry, so those guys can tell you better than me. That's some of the best high school film I've ever watched on a safety or a DB. Was Jonah Williams' film. I mean, it is phenomenal. His instincts are unbelievable. It looks like he's moving at a different speed than everybody else out there. He's a ball hawk, so he's got great ball skills too. Takes amazing angles to the football. That's important as a safety because you're always coming from depth. I think he's got an all-around skill set to be a 5'2" DB. I remember saying on the evaluation, I think that's a guy that could be a Thorpe Award finalist for you. And we're watching another one in Jahdae Barron. Yeah. I think Jonah Williams could end up being the next one for Texas. I
like that call, Rod. I do.
Yeah, I really do. I think he's that good. I'm not joking. I wouldn't just say that in terms of hyperbole. Okay, the other guys, though, that I like, because I think Sark's up to something, CJ. He's up to something, man. The Michael Terry thing, the Nick Townsend. I'm with you on the Nick Townsend at tight end. And even Amari Winston at tight end, just watching these guys. This is an interesting, eclectic mix of some offensive talent and guys who I think are going to bring an element of hybridism to the offense. I think Sark wants to add that element of multiplicity to the offense. Guys, he can move around the chessboard, a player that can take you from 21 personnel to 11 personnel, literally within the same framework of the play, right? I think that Michael Terry is a guy that can do that. You can move around, be a Deebo Samuel for you. I know people like that comparison. I like the Kyle Juszczyk comparison. He's a guy I can put in the backfield. I can put him at H-back. I can put him at tight end, put him in the slot. I can put him outside. He's just going to be a matchup nightmare. I can hunt matchups, all right, with this guy. That's Michael Terry. Nick Townsend, I think, kind of fits that. Yes, positionless weapons. Thank you, 57 Cal. I've been saying it for years. I think the future of football is positionless football. The problem is it's hard to find those kind of athletes. But if I look at this class, I see more of those types of athletes than I've seen in a Sark class in a long time. Just guys I can move around the chessboard. And I think that's what he's going for, CJ. With Nick Townsend, I think that's a guy that his physicality, he can be an H-back for you, be an inline tight end, but also athletic enough I can put him in the slot. Amari Winston, I know people don't like the comparison, but in terms of the way they can weaponize him, I see some Aaron Hernandez. I'm not saying Aaron Hernandez, but I'm just saying the way they remember how they used to use Aaron Hernandez in college.
Weaponize Aaron Hernandez?
Yeah, it's a bad. I know. There's no good way to say it. There's no good way to make it.
I get what you mean now. I see it too.
You get my point, kind of an undersized tight end, but very athletic, that kind of thing. So those are the guys I really like. I think those guys could end up being some real freakish. Yes, I know. Every time, and I see it when I remember putting it down in my notes, but I shouldn't have said it.
That's good. I mean, but that's what you get, right? That's the type of tight end ability that Texas is bringing in, not just with Townsend and Winston, but also Michael Terry, who, look, who knows what he evolves into? He's kind of like that first level Pokemon. You want to get him to that final evolution. And I think it might look completely different than what you're seeing right now. Ooh, again, for Michael Terry, who committed and signed this morning, the winningest Alamo Heights player under the Ron Rittiman era. So really, really impressive stuff. I was talking to Coach Rittiman earlier today when I made the trip down to San Antonio. Upwards of 53 wins and 5 losses. Pretty impressive.
Wow. That's crazy. All right, getting back to the super chats. Good stuff there, CJ. Major says, hey, fellas, currently a Marine stationed in Okinawa, Japan. Hey, thanks for your service. God bless you, brother. God bless you. No doubt about that. Thank you. Appreciate y'all doing these at a time that's accessible to me. At any potential flips left in 2025, biggest in-state targets in 2026. By the way, yes, Rod, I'm named after Applewhite. I'm glad I got to it last. I was going to say a major. It's just not a lot of majors out there. Not a lot of majors, especially in the Longhorn community. So there you go. That's why. You know what? If I talk to majors, I ain't talked to him in a couple of years. I'll let them know. Hey man, I met a major named after you. Named another one because I think there are a couple of them have named after major. But thank you for your service.
That
is
very cool.
The super chat, major. And hey, that's the whole point of the channel, man. So we can. There are time. Everybody's got different schedules. We want to be able to bring the Longhorn family some content when they need it. So thank you for tuning in. All right, CJ, I'll throw it to you. Any potential flips left in the 2025, and then biggest in-state targets in the 2026 class?
Yeah, we'll start with 25 because I've seen some questions in the chat whether or not Texas has some work still to be done in this class, maybe a late February signing, and we'll see. Of course, there's still position coaches, coaching changes, that whole carousel still has to occur. Right now, I do think that the one guy that Texas is focused in on is Justus Terry, who's expected to announce between Texas and Georgia on Friday. But to the point about what's to come in 2026, offensive line heavy in the state of Texas. It's John Turntime, that's Nick Robertson, that's Felix Ojo, that's Zayden Crimpin, Toa Katoa. There's a lot, right? And Texas is in a great spot for a number of those guys right now. I think of the 5 that I listed, you could realistically see Texas adding and signing more than half of them next year. So good spot early on. Jalen Lott's my favorite out of DFW. I think he is a tremendous cornerback. I think he could play corner. I think he could play wide receiver. I saw some of the freshman tape of him at Lovejoy, Rod, and you would have had no idea that this was a kid that was eventually going to become a cornerback because of his hands, his athleticism. His dad, of course, is in the Texas Hall of Honor for high jump. So pretty good genes right there. Shout out to James Lott, heck of a guy, and Longhorn, Horn for life as well. Going down south, Isaiah Williams is a big one. I really like Yaheem Riley out of Austin LBJ, a defensive back down here, and then Jamarian Carlton and Jamarian Vincent, both of them out of that Central Texas, Temple and Waco area as well.
All right. Thank you, Major. We appreciate that. Thank you for your service, but also thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that. Let's get back to another super chat here. This was from Aggie_grad_0_percenter. Thank you for the super chat. How does Texas replace Brodin, Collins, Lole, and Norton? The portal guys have been awesome. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I will say, remember after the spring game, I remember going in the post game and him saying we need big humans. Like we need big humans on the defensive line. We need more of them. And of course, I mean, they went out and kept stockpiling big humans via the transfer portal. That's not easy. What was last year more of an outlier, CJ? Because I've heard that D tackle is one of the positions. We talked about wide receivers, plentiful. Seems like in the transfer portal, you can find wide receivers, willy-nilly, if you will, like my grandfather used to say in the transfer portal. But it seems like they're tougher to find D tackles, offensive linemen, line of scrimmage players in the transfer portal. But Texas did find Lole, Norton, Savea. What are your thoughts, though? I mean, how tough is it going to be to replace all the guys that they just mentioned there? I will say out there straight up, we thought it was going to be tough to replace Sweat and Murphy, and seems like they did pretty good on that front as well.
Yeah, they absolutely. I mean, they knocked it out of the park this year, and of course, the emergence of Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins as the guys certainly helped. Right? They were good. They were serviceable, rotational guys the last 2 or 3 years. But I don't know if I were expecting those two to take the leaps where they're now going to be all SEC conference guys. Right? Texas doesn't, in my eyes, have a Collins or Broughton in the waiting right now, at least not this year. I think Alex January has a really bright future. I think Sadir Mitchell, if he, puts his entire brain to football, I think he can have a very bright future as well. But how do you replace 4, maybe 5 guys that depart from this roster? I mean, you have to go to the portal. And to your point, Rod, there aren't many elite defensive tackles that enter the portal, but you can bet your bottom dollar is the one that Texas is going to be involved, right? You just mentioned you got 3 last year. Savea, who's redshirting this year, Lole, and Bill Norton. That's good. Lole is probably the only one that was maybe qualified as elite. Of course, he's been banged up all the way throughout his career. But remember, Texas brought in Jay Toya out of UCLA whenever he entered the portal. He came in for the spring game. Texas was close to adding him to the roster as well. Texas was very close to adding Dominic Williams. He ended up at Oklahoma. I wonder if he regrets that decision with the way that season's gone. But there's always going to be 4, maybe 5 guys that Texas circles and says, yeah, that's a guy that could play for us right now. Of course, we'll wait and see just who does enter their names in the portal moving forward. But, of course, look, Texas will be fine at defensive tackle because they know the importance and the urgency to act on any defensive tackle that does enter the portal because of the way that this roster is shaking out at the moment.
Yeah. All right, good stuff there, CJ. All right, before we move on, let's thank another sponsor of ours. Let's thank the Carrot Concierge. Now, guys, you got the holiday season coming up, the gift-giving season. Christmas is on the horizon. Don't wait till the last minute, all right? You want to make sure you do your preparation, your game planning for the holiday season. The Carrot Concierge can help you out with that, all right? Don't procrastinate here. Just reach out to thecarrotconcierge.com. If you're looking for the right gift for that woman in your life, make sure you check out thecarrotconcierge.com. Jody Reynolds is a personal jeweler, so she is great at finding that perfect gift, all right, for the perfect occasion, no matter what it is. But we got Christmas coming up with an office right there in Westlake. Jody focuses on helping men purchase the special gift for the woman in their lives. You can use the QR code on the screen right there to see even more, or you can visit her on Instagram at her website, thecarrotconcierge.com. Jody prides herself in providing personal service. She takes the extra steps to make sure your lady gets exactly what she wants. And because she doesn't have the overhead of a storefront, she can get the highest quality inventory and at the lowest possible prices, as much as 30% less than what you would expect to see at a jewelry store. That is great, folks. So if you're a baller on the budget like me, you'll appreciate the Carrot Concierge even more. So if you're looking for something special for birthdays or an anniversary, or with Christmas right around the corner, Joni has a variety of tennis bracelets, rings, necklaces, and more. All beautiful jewelry, all personalized for you and yours. Check out thecarrotconcierge.com. Visit our website or give her a call or text her. She'll take care of that very special person for you and yours at thecarrotconcierge.com. So thank you very much to Jody and her team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. All right, how about Blake? Blake's got a super chat here. CJ is for you. You're a popular man today with your recruiting knowledge. Biggest misconception covering recruiting. Oh, this is good. I actually want to know this too. What is this?
It's probably changed a little bit over the years. Of course, years ago, it was probably, relationships, development. That probably fits into, the 1A, the 1Bs of what you're looking for as a recruit. Obviously, NIL's become a big factor. I think that there are still kids that want that relationship. I think the biggest misconception that I see, and there's certainly factors and bidding wars now that go against what I'm about to say, but I do think that relationships still are the number one factor for a kid to commit somewhere. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that every kid's just going to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
Again, you see that happen today. You see that happen on signing day. You see that happen throughout the cycle, but I don't think it's the overwhelming majority. I could be wrong here, but, just having spoken and talked with a lot of these kids who, are getting recruited by teams and coaches and NIL contingencies across the country, they want to go to a place where they can earn an NFL paycheck, a second NFL paycheck, and, feel like they made the most of their college experience. So I think that's a big misconception as well. Well, the biggest one is rumored down the phone line, Rod, the numbers being thrown out. Some of those are just so outrageous that
they're ridiculous. I've heard that too. It's like, come on, it's like, the numbers about this guy's making $500,000 here and there. I was like, I don't think some guys are. I'm not saying that nobody is, but I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of that being exaggerated in terms of the numbers for NIL. That's a good point about that. All right, good stuff there, CJ. Let's get back to it here. How about this one from Orlando? Orlando says 247 still doesn't show Fasusi has signed with OU. Any news on that front, CJ?
He did sign. Oklahoma's Twitter account did tweet him out. He did sign. He's officially in the OU class. I know that there was maybe a delay, maybe some debate whether or not that actually works or went through, but he did sign with Oklahoma. He's locked in with them.
All right, there you go. Aggie _grad _0 % says, hey, to be clear, I'm an Aggie grad, but I've always been a Texas fan. We're rare, but we exist. You know what? Thank you for that, Aggie grad _0 % I'll tell you what, because I am not your usual Texas fan who hates the Aggies with every fiber of my being. I'm not that guy. Some people on this channel are going to hate me now for saying this. Never been that guy because I was almost an Aggie. I was so close to being one. I can't hate them because I was almost one. Those my final two schools was Texas. So I'm not going to hate on the Aggies and talk about them being a cult and talk about them being, some country bumpkins. And I was almost one myself. I don't go that route. So I've never been the one to hate on the Aggies like that. Even when they went to the SEC, I said they'd win double-digit games. Blackstreet almost was right on that one. I've never hated the Aggies as much as most Longhorn fans do. I understand the hatred. I get it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not, and now I have fun with Aggie jokes, but I never shared this vitriol because I was too close to being one. I'm on the other side of that rivalry. I'm on Texas right now. All right, I'm on Texas, and
they probably love you over there, Rod.
Nah, I'm good. I like Billy Lucius. He's a good dude. He's a good.
That's a funny name. Now I get the name right there. Thank you very much for the super chat as well. That's a heck of a name.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. Aggie _grad _0 % We appreciate that. How about this one? Juan, was it cool? The first signee was Myron Charles. Left no doubt. Wonder if Texas told him to do that. Okay.
Florida kid.
Is that a thing where they want a guy to sign first, or a guy's just enthusiastic? CJ's like, no, man, it's like Christmas. I can't sleep. I'm up anyway. That's why I'm up at 5 in the morning, Mama. Yeah. I'm ready to go. Let's go open these damn gifts. Is it like that, basically?
I think it was obviously East Coast kid from Florida. I believe the first 3 signees today, I think it went Myron Charles, Jamie French, and then Nick Brooks, if I'm not mistaken. So, look, that's Florida, and that's Georgia. I think it just happened to be what time they got to school, what time they sent in some paperwork or faxed it over with their head coaches. I don't think it was anything more than just a statement, though. I think Texas coaches were pretty darn happy and relieved that they didn't have to wait and stress throughout the entire day. So a positive for them, but I don't think there was anything behind the scenes saying we got to get him to sign and be the first guy. Of course, I think it came in right around 6:15 in the morning. So
nice.
It was probably a nice thing to wake up to because it certainly wasn't the sun that we were waking up to today, Rob. That's for sure.
Oh, no, it was ugly. It's one of them. Yeah, Sunday's supposed to be like a beautiful day. It was one of them gross, nasty days. But Texas #1 class in the country, so it was still some beautiful out there. Britt, right here. Britt, thank you for the super chat. You guys look at Aaron Wolford, 26, offensive lineman from PNG, 6'4", 285, and nasty. Main offer currently is U of H. Would like to see him and JC be guards for UT offensive line in the fall of 2026. What are your thoughts, CJ? Are you familiar with him?
I'm not, but I'll go check him out. Of course, you're telling me that there's an offensive lineman from PNG, but then describe him as a nasty and mean. Well, I'll tell you what, you just said a lot of redundant words right there. PNG is synonymous with nasty and mean, especially on the trenches. So I'll go check him out right there. 100%. Thanks, Britt.
Nice. Hey, love that. Love the watcher recommendations like that. That's pretty cool. All right, Blake, one more super chat here before we take a break and thank another sponsor. It says, Rod, when we getting Sims back in Austin for a game? I don't know, Blake. It needs to happen. I agree with you. Thank you for the super chat. I agree with you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna reach out. I'm not joking about this. I'm actually gonna text John Bianco at one point, and be like, hey, when we gonna understand him? Because I still think in terms of wins, he's like, I don't know, like top 6 or 7 like that all the time in quarterback wins. He's still up there. He should be in the Hall of Honor. I know some of y'all ain't gonna like that, but the man should be in the Hall of Honor for Texas too, because he won a lot of games and had a lot of records at the time. So I think we should try to get him back. He hasn't come back maybe once, I think, since he left, and it wasn't for public knowledge because he didn't feel the love when he was here. So I don't think he feels like he's gonna get the love when he comes back. But I will let him know, because I have enough people like you, Blake, that are asking like, hey, we want to show love. All right, to Sims. There were, when he was here, obviously, some mixed reviews about Sims, but I think Longhorn fans, considering where the program is now, there are a lot of them very grateful for Mac and what I tell. Hey, Mac needs to come back too. Mac probably in a bad place because of the way North Carolina thing ended. Hey, Mac, come on back, bro. Come on back here. All right, we'll honor you. All right, we'll make you feel good and love on Mac a little bit because the program's in a good place. So, Blake, I will check on it for you. It needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
thank you for that. Britt, another super chat. Rod, what is not deep in high school football is DBs. Ooh. Yeah, you know what? I talked to some coaches about this. Matter of fact, we talked on this channel about this. Talked to some coaches about this. DB coaches, wide receiver coaches. And hell, there's the great story about Nick Saban also, right? That Trevon Diggs, who was an all-pro in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys, that Nick Saban, greatest coach in history of college football, greatest defensive mind in history of college football, went to this young man after his freshman year, because he was playing like safety and wide out, and he's a returner, and he's playing like 3 to 4 different positions. I think after his freshman year, something like that with Trevon Diggs. And Nick Saban goes to him and says, "Hey, I want you to play corner. I think that's where you're gonna, reach your ceiling. I think that's where we can maximize your talent." Trevon Diggs started crying, because he wanted to play offense so bad. And now he's an all-pro corner. And in a nutshell, that is now. That story is true or not, that's the story. And it makes so much sense, because these days all the coaches are telling me I got these corners and I saw these athletes in high school that I'm like, hey, you play corner, you will get a scholarship. You go play DB right now. There's somebody that's gonna give you money so you can go play football in college, and they'll pay for your school. And these guys are reluctant because they want to play offense so bad.
They want the touchdowns, Rod. They want the stats. Yes.
No, they do. And he said it's getting harder and harder to get good athletes to want to play defense because they all want to play offense. Isn't that crazy? It's unbelievable. So, Britt, that's what's happening in a nutshell. Yeah. That's what's not. That's why the young D. I wanted to play off. I played offense in high school, and I was good. I had some Odell Beckham style catches on my high school highlight reel. I BS you not. I know a lot of y'all out there saying that's a bunch of BS because I didn't have great hands in college, but I did have great hands in high school. But once they told me, "Hey, Rod B, you're a corner," I was like, "Cool. I'm a football player. I'll adapt to whatever it is." But that's, I think, the big issue. So, in a nutshell. Thank you, Rick. All right, let's get to another sponsor. DG Construction. Very excited to have them a part of the On Texas football family. Texas fans in the Austin area and the San Antonio area, by the way. If you're dreaming of transforming your outdoor spaces, look no further than DG Construction, San Antonio's premier hardscape and exterior living space contractor, celebrating 10 amazing years of delivering top-notch craftsmanship. The guys at DG Construction are experts at creating stunning driveways, patios, you can see them right there, walkways, and beautiful lawn improvements in either concrete or vivid pavers that match and enhance the curb appeal of your home's exterior. Whether you're in San Antonio, Austin, or Kerrville, or anywhere in the Hill Country, their dedicated team brings your residential and commercial visions to life. From luxurious artificial turf to sturdy house slabs and even foundation repairs, DG Construction has got you covered. They're just a call away, folks. One call away. Reach out to Mark Valdez, their dedicated design consultant and a long-time subscriber of On Texas Football. That's right, folks. He's family. You can get a free consultation today, 210-400-5643. That's 210-400-5643. Don't wait to make your outdoor dreams a reality with DG Construction. So give them a call today or reach out online at DGSATX.com. That's DGSATX.com. Hook them from the folks at DG Construction, where outdoor dreams meet exceptional designs. Thank you very much to DG Construction. All right, well, we got a couple of super chats here. We're going to get to an injury report as well, but let me get to the super chats, and then we'll jump to that injury report for the Texas-Georgia game. How about this one, Britt, with another super chat? Here says, I grew up a few houses down from BB. I have incriminating evidence if y'all need it. Well, I'm just kidding. It's fun to know a celebrity. Damn, you got
my way.
Yeah.
I'll take them all.
I don't even want to know. I don't want to know if there was some incriminating stuff going on. Thank you for the super chat, Britt. Thank you very much. Jose says, CJ, any player in this class that might be subject to a position switch or you think might thrive in a different position than they played in high school? Thanks for the super chat, Jose.
Yeah, I don't know about a true position switch because we don't know it just yet for Michael Terry, but I think you could put him in one of three spots and have him be successful. I think he could actually rush the passer and be pretty good at it too. We talked about Nick Townsend, tight end, outside linebacker. Lance Jackson, I think, would be a really good tight end as well. So that's look, you got some really talented football players. I don't know if position changes count for safety to corner, Rod, but Cade Phillips, that's again, a guy that versatility in his name.
Yep. I like that. I like the Lance Jackson one too. Even if it ends up with one of those packages that he uses with like Tavondre Sweat, Byron Murphy back in the day, definitely can see Lance Jackson being one of them dudes that he uses in certain jumbo packages. Thank you for the super chat. Burt Reynolds, appreciate this. He said, at RB sneak peek at this week's football theory. Oh, well, you know what? It's going to be Texas, Georgia. I can tell you right now. We're going to be previewing Texas, Georgia, tendency breakers, things that I think Texas did in the last game that worked, that we could see again, and things Texas should have done in their first matchup versus Georgia that I think would have given them a schematic advantage. So, Bert, thank you very much for that, Bert. We didn't do it today because we had the marathon of coverage for signing day, but we'll get back into some of the recorded shows for you. Football theory being one of them. Matter of fact, my man CJ and I are gonna have your preview for Texas, Georgia coming up. So we'll, after signing day, after everything subsides, we'll jump back into Texas, Georgia, get focused again. Just like Texas. They had to derail things a little bit, focus on signing day. But I'm sure right now they're getting back focused on Georgia. We'll do the same. Thank you, Burt Reynolds. We appreciate that. Aggie _grad_0_percenter says, wait, Rod, I hate Aggie. ... Spent enough years there to know better. Okay. All right. My bad. See, you know him better than me. I didn't want to get to know him that well. I was like,
that could have been Houston in these chats, Rod.
That's true. You might know some inside sources there. All right. Thank you guys for all the super chats. Very kind of you. We appreciate it. Let's get to the injury report here, or the availability report, I should say there, Matthew. Whenever you get some time, we'll do that here. There you go. That's the availability report for Texas, Georgia. Not a very long one. Guys might be as healthy as they've been a long time for Georgia. You see Joseph Jonah Jeanier, the defensive lineman, is out, and the rest of these gentlemen are questionable. Trevor Etienne, the running back, questionable. Branson Robinson, another running back, questionable. Chauncey Bowens, another running back, questionable. Man, the running back position for both teams, a little snake bitten. Christian Miller, another defensive lineman, is questionable for them. So they're hit heavy with injuries on the D-line, the running back position. 4 of those 5 are questionable. And for Texas, we know that Derek Williams Jr., C.J. Baxter, Christian Clark, Belton Gardner have been out for some time now. Kelvin Banks Jr. is questionable. This is the one, CJ, that people are concerned about. But considering the way that Trevor Gooseby played, and we got a couple of people who have already asked a question here. Hookham from OKC wants to know, is Gooseby going to start on Saturday? What are your thoughts, CJ? I mean, he was fantastic. William Niche wants to know, how's Banks doing? A lot of folks want to know from the injury report, availability report, do we think that Banks is going to play? And if he doesn't play, how do we think Gooseby is going to fare in his first start? Actually, he got his first significant action versus A&M, but it'll be his first start versus Georgia in the SEC title game. Wow.
Yeah, look, we don't know right now. Texas has done a great job of keeping this under wraps. Obviously, you see the questionable status there for Banks, but it's going to be the same kind of trajectory and ramp-up process of Quinn Ewers last week, right? You just get on the practice field, see how you feel, do a little bit more, work a little bit more, go all the way out. Can you go? That's kind of the process right now. You see him listed as questionable. We'll see tomorrow if that changes at all to probable or doubtful. But my feeling is this. If Banks can play, you play him. And I don't care about the college football playoff because, one, if you win this game, you get basically 3 weeks off, right? You get a bye on top of what is already another bye. You've earned yourself that rehabilitation time to get to 100% because of this game. And I think Banks, as good as Trevor Goosby was against A&M and as good as Trevor Goosby will be in his career at Texas, Kelvin Banks is a top 5 pick. He's the best left tackle in all of college football. If he can play and if he can play effectively, you put him out there. Again, because you winning the SEC championship, that trumps just about anything else immediately, right? Of course, national championship is down the road, but by then you'll have 2 weeks to prepare or 3 weeks to prepare. But I think you absolutely put him out there if he's able to go. Of course, we'll see later this week just if he is or is not, ready to go.
I agree with you, CJ. It's a good point, too, about the break. You earn that time, and that should be plenty enough time for whatever is ailing him for him to recover from it and enough time for the playoff run. All right, good stuff there. That is the availability report. Not a very deep one, but at running back, man, running back's a tough position. See why you got to stockpile that running back position.
Get 2 a year.
Right. Let's thank our good friends at Home Field Apparel as we approach the end of our live stream here. Home Field Apparel, they do a great job. Homefieldapparel.com is where you go check out all of their great products. Home Field Apparel is focused on creating officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. They have a wide range of available colleges right now, 180 plus and growing every day. And right now, their football boxes, folks, are fantastic, containing 3 never-before-seen items unavailable anywhere else. So y'all, your friends will be asking you where you got this stuff, and you can tell them if you want to, or you can keep it to yourself. Platinum Box VIPs will receive additional exclusive items, a new hat or ringer for Platinum Box VIPs only. The 2024 Platinum Pass will guarantee you 20% off and early access to all of their exclusive items at homefieldapparel.com. You also can use the code Texas24. You see it right there on the screen for 15% off. The convenience of online shopping has never been better thanks to homefieldapparel.com. Check out their vintage designs at homefieldapparel.com. And remember, use that code Texas24 and you'll get that special discount, 15% off from our friends over at homefieldapparel.com. Thank you very much. We appreciate them for being a part of our team. Brad, throw in the super chat. Thank you very much, Brad. We appreciate it. With the possibility of losing Barron, Makuba, and Taft, do you see coverage dropping off, or is it the coaches that should be credited for the turnaround? That's a great point, Brad. I was actually doing some research this turnaround. And did you – okay, and I went back as far as I could go, CJ. I couldn't go back any further. Stats get all weird after like 25 years. You got to try to piecemeal it together. And I went to look at all the top pass defenses in college football over the last 25 years. So I'm talking about the number one pass defense and how basically what they were ranked the previous year. Because I was like, man, this Texas turnaround from 116th in pass defense to number one seems like that's an historical outlier. I've watched a lot of college football. I just can't recall a pass defense being that good after being that bad. Well, I was right. There's not been a pass defense in the last 25 years that is ranked as the best pass defense in the country and been outside the top 100.
Wow.
In the previous year.
Wow.
I honestly now, CJ, I bet if we did the research, and like I said, it's hard to do it because it's hard to find, the cohesive stats, past like 25 years ago. I don't think we've seen a better turnaround for a secondary in college football history. I'm ready to say that.
I can't say otherwise because, again, Texas sits number one, I think, by a pretty significant margin too, Rod, when it comes to from 1 to 2 and then 3, 4, 5 are all bunched together. I think Texas was allowing about 132 yards per game through the air. And then the next closest is about 144 and then 145, 147, whatever it might be right after that. But that's a heck of a point. That'll be the rabbit hole I go down at the end of the year. When we get some time to sit back, relax, kick your feet up, and go back down the rabbit hole, visit Bugs Bunny, that's the one I'm going to go down. I like that.
Yeah, it's like I said, I was shocked by it because it seemed like it was a massive, extraordinary turnaround, and indeed, ladies and gentlemen, it was. Look at that.
Okay, so it closed a little bit. You see the last 368 yards allowed. So it was down at 132, 133. It's since kind of closed up a little bit, but man, that's a heck of a. I mean, Ohio State. I mean, that number's in 62 yards to Michigan last week. To lose that game too.
Yeah, that's wild. And yeah, exactly. Lose that game. And Brad, by the way, I think in terms of Barron, McCuba, and Taft and losing all those guys, do I see a drop off in coverage? It's hard to say because I want to give the coach a lot of credit. They had a vision for this secondary. CJ actually had a really good tweet about it where Sark talks about the steps they took to rebuild the secondary. I think versatility was a big part of it, emphasizing versatility and diversity with the skill sets, cross-training guys. I think also coverage specialists were, I think, prioritized, guys who can just flat out cover. Now everybody in the secondary can cover. They don't have guys who aren't coverage specialists in the secondary. And so I do think that they can continue this. I think there's some substance to it. Will they be the number one pass defense in the country next year? I don't know about that, but I don't see a significant drop off where there's a precipitous fall for this secondary. Depending on how young Kobe Black is, but you still got Malik Muhammad and Derek Williams. Remember, he got hurt. He'll be back. Jelani McDonald's been great as one of those safeties, so I think they'll bring back a lot in the secondary. All right, thank you for that super chat. Keith here says, thank you for the super chat, Keith. You don't have to hate the Aggies, but watching the Yale leaders on YouTube creep me out. That's some disturbing stuff. They need some gals with the short skirts and bumps. Hey, you know what, Keith? Like I said, that's the reason I didn't go. Okay, I came close, Keith. I took a trip there. I love me some R.C. Slocum, and I was very close. And then I looked around, and then a 17-year-old Rod B made the right decision for a 43-year-old Rod B. God bless him. Thank you. Bert Reynolds says, hashtag Johnny Nansen. Johnny Nansen's done a great job, Bert, as well as I've heard great things about Scott Hazelton, who came in with Michigan D.C. He's working with the Nichols now. Heard great things about him as well. So they're really coaching their butt off right now, man. You're really seeing the product on the field. Britt says, agree with your DB assessment on improvement. Yeah, I mean, it's a situational awareness. I do think I don't know if they're not as athletic and freakishly athletic as 05. And I don't even know if they're as freakishly athletic as maybe 09. We had a lot of speed in our secondary. We were dogs in terms of coverage in 01. I don't know if they can cover they don't cover a lot of man-to-man. Their man-to-man rate. I was looking at some stuff for the Georgia game from Pro Football Focus. Texas is 113th in man coverage rate.
Wow.
They don't play man coverage.
Yeah.
They don't play a lot of bump and run. We played bump and run.
You know what that is?
60% of the time when I was playing.
Communication.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. Agreed, CJ. Passing off receivers in coverage, picking them up on the backside like we saw with McCuba and Taft in the A&M game. They're synchronized, man. There's that coordination back there. The synchronicity is
absolutely.
And Brent, just impressive stats from Rod B. Thanks, guys. No, man, trust me. CJ has always got great stats. Trust me, and we all try to do our best. And CJ probably is my favorite guy to follow for some of those deep dive rabbit hole stats. So make sure you do that. Thank you, Brent. Though Bixby Horn, CJ, your percentage on Texas landing Justus Terry. I want to know this.
I don't know. I would probably say 45% for Texas, 55% for Georgia. I just have a hard time seeing Kirby Smart allow, if you will, a 5-star from the in-state of his own school to leave home. I just don't. I have a hard time believing that. As much as Texas has worked and gotten themselves to be in this position, I have to just kind of go back with the history of recent recruiting, and that's big-time defensive linemen from Georgia go to Georgia.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be wrong there, but that's where I'm at.
I like that. That's why they're Georgia right now.
Yeah.
They keep them in Georgia. All right, let's thank our last sponsor of the evening before we end our live stream, Andy Ludicky. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like me that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy can help you diversify by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you're stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general, just call Andy today and he'll take you through a process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, you give Andy a call and he'll help you out. 404-973-9901. That's 404-973-9901. Or visit him at his website, myperfectfranchise.net, or just email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. So thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for sponsoring our team here on the Wednesday night live stream. Oh, last super chat. Britt's throwing it in again. Appreciate you, Britt. Says CJ, Kirby lost Sammy Brown to Clemson. So maybe.
Yeah, it could happen.
There you go. Well, if you beat Georgia in Atlanta, and it'll happen a lot more often, damn it. Clay K, Mr. Super Chat here says, my guys, hell of a class, Sark and company just closed. With missing out on Fasusi, do you think the importance of landing John Turntine next year grows? I got to tell you, Jerry and Matthew threw it up there, introduced me to some film of John Turntine. Dude, it's hard not to like his game. I've never seen an offensive lineman move like that. I mean, maybe that's how Dan Neal moved back in the day. Dude, when he pulls, gets to the second level, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, he's a heck of a football player. He's going to be top of the list for any position next year. And yes, it absolutely increases the emphasis on landing turn time next year, 100%.
All right. Thank you guys for all the super chats. Appreciate it. We didn't get to as many questions as I wanted to. So please, guys, direct the questions to the live streams tomorrow. Coffee and football starting at 8 a.m. They will also have the winning drive. That'll be my man CJ, the Prodigy, along with Coach Bob Shipley and myself. And that'll be starting up around 3:15 for the winning drive. So any questions that we didn't answer today, we can answer then. Thank you guys for all the super chats. Very kind of you, man. Thank you guys also for tuning in and supporting our coverage, our marathon coverage of signing day. Really appreciate you. Give props to Matthew behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matthew.
Breaks. Matthew doesn't take breaks. He's not allowed to take breaks, really, because we ain't got nobody else that can do what Matthew does. So imagine that guy that plays every minute on the basketball floor. He plays all the minutes. That's Matthew. He doesn't get a break, right? He's the real MVP of this thing. So please show him some love as well. And let's not forget our sponsors, guys. Couldn't do it without them. Andy Ludicky, thank you. HomeFieldApparel.com, DG Construction, TheCarrotConcierge.com. They've been sticking with us all year long, and they're a really big part of this community. So thank you guys for all the questions, your participation. Tomorrow, remember, Coffee and Football at 8 a.m., 3:15. You got the winning drive. Until next time, for CJ, for Matthew, for all of our sponsors, Hook 'em Horns.